Thank you for that reminder. So you'll get, if you don't know them already, you'll get an introduction from Jackson and Eric and Joel when they give their presentations. Quick introduction of myself. I'm Dr. Jaleesa Rowe. I was born and raised in the Global South, specifically Zimbabwe and Kenya. So this is very much my home, even though I have citizenship in the US and worked there for 25 years. I have a foot in many different theatrical worlds. I taught theater at the university level at Daystar University for 11 years. I've been a professional actor and director for decades, touring professionally as well as working with churches, with schools and community groups. I've acted in the Kenyan TV industry. I'm an independent trainer in acting and directing. I work in drama therapy, and now I'm teaching directing at Potter House in Nairobi, which is an IGCSE school. So I feel like I have firsthand knowledge of the challenges of all these different theatrical groups, and the teaching ones particularly are wonderful to come together here. So let's take a few minutes to familiarize with the features and the protocols. I think for the time of presentations, if everyone can turn off their mics and cameras, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can post it in the chat, and one of the hosts will get to you on that. You can, if you're not familiar with Zoom, just kind of look around. There at the bottom of the participants section, there are some icons. Under more, you have an icon that has a raise hand or thumbs up, thumbs down, or applause. Go ahead and locate that so you can use that. Let's see. Under the stop video down at the bottom left of your screen, there's a mute, unmute, and a stop video. If you click on the arrow next to that, you can go to video setting and select hide non-video participants if you just want to see whoever is on the actual camera and clear up your screen a little bit. The chat feature is on. You can post comments and questions there, and one of the hosts will be watching that and collecting it. Hopefully at the end of every presentation, there will be a few minutes to respond to some of the questions. Joel will bring out one or two of those, and then at the end of the presentations, we have time built in for more comments and questions from all of you. So we have a time of interaction at the end. You will need to raise your hand if you want to say something then, so that we can unmute you or uncamera you, re-camera you. Yes. So let's try something quickly. Locate that raise hand icon and raise your hand if you can hear me. Great, I see Wekesa can hear me. It's the little triple dot under participants. There should be a little raise hand. Hopefully everyone else can hear me. They're just not finding the raise hand. You can put your hand down now and raise your hand if you're based in East Africa. Great. Murungu Wekesa, Eric, I know you are. I am. Raise your hand if you are based in another part of Africa. I know Jackson is, I'm just not seeing his hand go up. Raise your hand if you're based in South or East Asia.
Oh, that's me, that's me.
Waiting for Joel's hand to go up. All right, let's try using the chat. Type in what country or city you're based in. The chat is the three dots under the picture. There should be a way to open the chat. Good, we've got Kenya, Nairobi, Lagos, Beijing. Fabulous, any others? I love the fact that we can talk to Beijing and Nigeria all at the same time from Kenya. Okay, and if you can find a clap icon, go ahead and clap for all the drama teachers and actors and directors and writers who are on this call right now. Excellent. Okay. And now that we've got a little bit familiarized with everything there, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll give the first presentation before we move on to the others. So, like many of you, I'm sure, I was in the middle of play rehearsals at school at Potter House when overnight everything shut down. No more gatherings, no more rehearsals, no more performances, even no more school. And the very physical theater play that we were rehearsing couldn't continue. I'd also just cast an 8-person play, and that included some year 11 students, and this was going to be their final performance of their school career. So it was a very disappointing time. And as we sat at home doing nothing, I thought that there must surely be something we could continue with. Now, when I direct a play, we spend a lot of time with the actors helping work through character background, character arc, intentions, and so forth. And I realized that this table talk could very easily continue online, particularly with this very helpful Zoom platform and Google Meet and Google Hangouts. So over the past few months, I've ventured into the world of online rehearsal and performance, and I wanted to share my process with you. I've done 3 socially distanced performances and 1 online performance so far. So I want to share that, what I have learned from that. Let me just share my PowerPoint screen with you here as we go through. Okay. So let me just close off this chat here. All right, so performing online. I can figure out how to do this. Next. Here are some of the platforms that I found helpful. The Zoom platform, of course. There is a link there to a useful tutorial. There are many tutorials that have popped up on YouTube helping you understand how Zoom works. This one was done by a theater company, and they walk you through the different controls that are useful for the performance and the rehearsal process. And I have used that a lot. Google Meet, Google Hangouts, I have also used. Our school uses that for its classes. It's useful. It doesn't have as many controls as Zoom, but it's still helpful. Skype is another useful format, particularly for one-on-one. I do some of my acting coaching with students on a one-on-one Skype. Last year, I actually directed an entire one-man show over Skype. So I was sort of, had an advance warning about what all this would be like. And then WhatsApp is another useful platform. If people don't have computers, you can try WhatsApp. What is the process I use? Set a regular rehearsal schedule just like you would with a normal rehearsal time. Start off with a read-through of the script on the Zoom platform or whatever platform you're using. This allows the actors to hear everyone in their roles and start getting used to rehearsing in an online environment. I find that very helpful. The focus of these online rehearsals is the table talk. That's analyzing the script, analyzing the roles, character development, diction, understanding the text, interacting verbally with the other characters, exploring that character interaction, and so forth. Rehearsals with a smaller number of cast is easier on many levels. It's less tiring. It's easier to interact personally. So try and break it down into the smallest number as possible. And then keep rehearsals shorter than usual. I found that 1 hour is usually good before fatigue sets in, particularly if I have the entire cast. I mean, when I had 8 girls that I was rehearsing, it was very tiring. Theater is a live media. We have energy that flows from person to person. The screen cuts off that energy. We can't get that from one another. And so that's why we start getting Zoom fatigue. So keeping it short and sweet will help with that whole process. I'm still working with online environment and Zoom and what I can do here. So what do I do? There's some other considerations. If you want to go beyond just strictly online, try an in-person line through, if at all possible, using social distancing and masks and all that. It makes a huge difference in the energy level, and it gets the cast excited again. We did a couple months of online rehearsals, and then we got the girls together in a social distance situation. We sat in a huge circle outside, wore masks, and everyone had their chair, which was their little safe bubble, and they could experiment with movement and moving around just around their chair. But wow, the difference it made in the energy for people was phenomenal. So if at all possible, that's very helpful to do. Likewise, an in-person walkthrough is helpful, again, with all distancing and ventilation. And then depending on your end performance choice, you might need to spend time working on technical things like camera position. You don't want them filming, like this or up their nose or, too far away. So trying some of those things. What is their lighting like? Camera and mic on and off in Zoom, all those kinds of things you want to try and work with. Performance options. So socially distanced performance. This was the first one that I did with Potter House after we did the online rehearsals. I was looking at, could we do it online in Zoom? But we got permission of the parents and said, yes, after one in-person line through and one in-person walkthrough, we will get together and perform it live and record it and then edit it for later live viewing. We made sure that we observed social distance. When we filmed, we had all the cameras in the back. We had a 4-camera shoot so that we could catch some different angles. We kept all doors and windows open. Everyone was masked unless they were on stage, keeping distance. And I blocked it so that they were 1.5 to 2 meters apart the entire time. And let me actually be playing that as we go along.
So I just think they appreciate that I look out for them.
So this was the end result of the socially distanced performance. We did the whole recording of it in about 4 hours. So it was not a film. It was not made for film. We couldn't take the time to get very close up, to look at angles and all that kind of thing, because we had to consider health. But it ended up being a little bit more like a staged reading. And we then, after we got the edited version, we had a Zoom performance of it, which was required by the publishers. We had to have a secure platform, not a public platform, and the parents were invited and everyone enjoyed that. And then we had a live curtain call at the end where the girls turned on their cameras, the cast members turned on their cameras, and people could see them outside of their role and sent chat congratulations to them. And that was very helpful. We did a similar process for an online church service. We did a 3-person drama that we rehearsed online and then filmed and then inserted into the church service at the appropriate time. Same thing with an online, with a socially distanced opera excerpt. We put the orchestra and all the characters at social distance and did sort of a concert stage version of that as well. So that is the socially distanced. Let's move on here. Yes, here you can see social distance, trying to keep it at the social distance at all times. So other options that you can have besides pre-recorded, you could try a live Zoom performance. There's another link there. I'm seeing more of them pop up on YouTube. So you can try that. Look at some of those links. Down here, you're seeing a video of something that we're currently working on where the actors are in their own homes, they're recording themselves, and then I'm editing everything together to come up with one unified video clip that will be then done for Sunday school in this particular case. So you can do live, which has its challenges with internet connection, or you can pre-record and play later. My time is up. So if there are any questions, Joel, do I have any time to take any questions?
Yes, you do have some time. If anyone has any question, you can post in the forum, the chat.
One thing I can just comment on the video that we're watching right now. This is an early, this is basically a rehearsal video for me to see what kind of lighting we're working with, how they're managing their camera angles so that I can go back and correct blocking. Say, okay, give me some more close-ups. Let's change the energy here. Let's try some different angles. You need better lighting. You need better audio. So it's a different way of rehearsing. And they have to do a little bit of self-direction as well because they're recording on their own. So they have to try and figure out how it's working for them. And then I can edit it together and watch it with them, which we did last night, and say, okay, you see how this is working, how this is not, and what we're going to try to do. So let's try some other kind of camera angles at that point. Okay. So if there are no questions at the moment, I'm going to turn it over to Joel. I mean, sorry, not Joel, Jackson, for his presentation.
Okay. So welcome again. My name is Jackson Ligaga Atonya. I teach in Nigeria. I've taught in Nairobi drama for 10 years. I taught 5 years in Mombasa and now 2 years here in Nigeria. So basically we're just sharing experiences of what works on an online environment. I'll just share a few insights on what would work on an online environment. So I will share my screen and so that we are able to see what do we anticipate when it comes to the online platform. So just digging in deep into it, I think the needs of the different curriculars is very important for us to take note of. And I'm sure that we have IB practitioners here. We have teachers who are teaching CAIE, EdExcel, and we also have other theater practitioners who might not be affiliated to these examination boards. But at the end of the day, drama still remains drama. Therefore, we are looking at, I first thought that the one fundamental tenet of drama is body language. How do students manipulate their bodies using their bodies? So I thought that teaching students how to use body language is a very vital tool in exploring drama performance. So I have a list here of 8 areas of body language which I think would be good to explore on an online environment. And as Julissa had just mentioned previously, getting students to rehearse is a very good thing to do, so that we also appreciating the process behind decisions made. So for example, what I have done, I'll just give an example of what I have done, is where students do a task on facial expression, and they will just capture pictures of maybe like 8 or 10 facial expressions, just to show that they really understand facial expression. So these areas of body language, I think, are very important for a performer. So it's a good environment that we are able to explore this at a deeper level, and where students can be able to work by themselves, video record or take pictures, and then have a discussion on a live Zoom session. So maybe if time would allow us, maybe we would all turn on our cameras later on and do maybe a task on facial expression, and everyone will do facial expression on this Zoom platform. So this would be a very good area to explore as you're looking at the drama on an online environment. So moving on, I also think that riding on body language, mime, and physical theater are very also key things that students can be able to explore on an online platform. So what I would, sometimes the intricacies of, let's say, mime or physical theater might be daunting, but I think also we learn better by seeing. So there are numerous videos online of students showing mime or different different practitioners of physical theater would be used as examples of this form of using body language, and encourage students to tell a story. So, because at the end of the day, drama is basically telling stories. So whatever form that they take where they are able to manipulate their bodies, let students imitate what they have seen, or it can be as simple as just watching a video and redoing the video their own version. And I think that is a good way that students would learn. So here there is a short video that I would want to play, and then we see how this goes. I hope the audio will be clear. If the audio is not clear, please say. So key in mime performances, the precision towards certain decisions. So I think that is something very good that you could explore. Another area that I think that is good that could be explored on an online environment is monologue writing and performance. So depending on your numbers and the needs that you have in your school, I think you could explore monologue writing. And why is a monologue important in a performance? And that would tie into what the students would write about, and make it an exciting journey for the students so that they can write about some things that they care about and things around their environment. And it would be good also that the students also get to perform their own monologues. I believe that that is the best way they know if whatever they have written works for stage or it doesn't. And I think this feedback process is a very important process to the growth of the performing arts. When we look further at a requirement for IGCSE, for example, they can pick monologues from published plays and they perform them. And I think that would be a good way to use the online platform for performance. But again, you can also have them perform live, and you can also have them perform and record themselves, and then you can give a critique maybe in a class. But I also think that also it should be done with love. So I think this is a very important area to explore. So my time is almost up. I would have played a video, but I would just want to finish up with storytelling. Storytelling, oldest form of theater. It is important that we take storytelling to a different level. Let students tell traditional folklore in the best way they know how. And the National Drama Festival has always been a good platform for this. So you can take storytelling to the next level. Let them tell stories on an online platform. Let them record themselves. And this would be fantastic to share on an online platform. So my time is up. I don't know if I'll have time to take questions. Joel? Joel?
No questions so far.
Oh,
no
okay.
questions so far. I'm waiting. Is there anyone who has any questions for Jackson?
Okay. If there's no question, I think then we will move on to the next presenter, who is Eric. Eric, take it away.
All right, guys. My name is Eric Mukira, an experienced IB and IGCSE teacher. I also have a little bit of experience teaching BTech drama and BTech photography. And I have knowledge of EdExcel drama or theater. Ideally, teaching drama during these pandemic times is quite a challenging thing. So, and we've gone through several things that you'd like to share. And we'll start with my PowerPoint here. I hope you can be able to see it. All right. First of all, I want to start with some wise words. It is not where you take things from, it's where you take them to. Doesn't matter where you borrow from essentially, it's what you do with it. The material is the material, but it's your ideas. The way you synthesize all this material and put it together in an appropriate and evocative way. That's the important thing. And that is still originality. So use this session to steal some of our ideas and to steal some of the ideas that we're going to have educators talking about. Use them, borrow them, and package them in a certain manner that still sounds new and still sounds original. Now, while I was teaching during this period of time, I realized that it was quite necessary for me to inspire students so that they learn 80% by themselves and I just teach 20%. That can be difficult with students who really don't want to learn. So ideally, it is good for you to give them some sessions whereby they can ask questions about the topic that you're about to teach. And then these questions that they ask becomes a curriculum for you. It becomes something that you can follow while you're teaching a particular topic. It is also good for you to let the students choose the tasks that they will need to do for a particular topic, also the product and method of doing these tasks. If you give them that platform, they will own the topic. They will own the area that you really want to teach. And they'll go on ahead and do these tasks without you pushing them. So I think this period was quite challenging for us because we had to push some of the students to do some of these tasks, and it was quite challenging. We even had to send emails to the head of the school to try and see if these students can do some of the tasks. Even calling the parents to see if these students would just go in the Zoom sessions and just listen in. It was quite difficult. In some of the Zoom sessions, we even had students who we could not see their heads. We could only see tips of their heads. And you see, we will try and make sure that we see their faces so that we get to understand if whatever we are teaching was going on. It was quite challenging. Now, one thing I came to realize is that instead of teaching topics as topics, I packaged my units in a different manner. It was quite hectic because that took me a few days and some of the units a few hours. So instead of teaching lighting design or costume design or set design, I looked at what cuts across all these ideas or all these topics. And I realized color cuts across all of them. So the best way to teach virtually and feel like you have hammered ideas home is using concepts that cuts across many disciplines. Now, the concept of color. You guys know that color can be a strong device within which a story can be told. And if color can be a strong device, then as a teacher, I had to go back and do more research on color, because knowledge gives you control, and control means you can manipulate and use color to give your work a powerful and beautiful edge. Now, what about color? In what ways would I teach color? So I looked at the color wheel, the color code, meaning of colors in different countries, combining colors, color value, color harmony, colors in costumes, colors in lighting, and colors in set design. So I realized if I just use this concept of color, then I can cut across set design, light design, and costume design. Why did I decide on this? It's because virtual platform created more time for us. So in class, we had 1 hour, but remember 5 minutes was used for maybe psych up games. Some students were late, and you'd use 5 more minutes to discipline some of the students. So again, those are 15 minutes gone. And in a lesson that you had 40 minutes, then you had less time to teach such a particular area of study. So with virtual platform, then it created more hours for me. So it was quite challenging. A topic that I would teach for 11 weeks, I was now teaching for 5 weeks. And I wondered, where would I take the rest of the weeks? So the idea of teaching concept then creates more discipline. You can teach more disciplines. You can have more tasks that you can give to the students. Now, when you look at color, when you say color, just give me a minute. When you say color combination, now you look at the color red in lighting. So red, if you mix it with green, what do you get? If you have red light on a green scenery, what color do you get? You realize that you get a gray scenery. And when you mix red and green while you're doing lighting, you get amber. Amber is a kind of color which is between orange and yellow. So the concept of using concept to me was really ideal, yeah, and it worked wonders for me. Now, all right, here we are. Red, for example, can symbolize danger, power, and bloodshed. Okay, but in some circumstances, red is used to focus on a certain character or on a certain prop. So if you make your prop red, that you're trying to tell the audience, hey, can you look away from the other things and just look at the red prop? Because this color, yellow, orange, and red, create some sense of closeness, some sense of warmth. When you look at symbolism when it comes to color, symbolism differ from region to region. For example, color white. In some regions, white is used for weddings, and others, white is used for mourning or funerals. But white can also be used for purity, so it cuts across. So you see, it's interesting. So when you give that platform to students to just tell you what colors symbolize, then you're going to be doing something called international mindedness. You're teaching them about things that are happening around the world. So for example, I looked at Bahati's recording studio, and Bahati's recording studio is in both white, in white, black, and red. So you ask the students then, why did Bahati use white, black, and red? Then why does Bahati wear these particular colors? Where is his clothes red, white, and black? So this again creates inquiry in such a lesson. Just before I finished, I looked at the props. Can a prop tell a story? And yes, a prop can tell a story. So if instead of telling students to create a prop, then I taught them of ways of creating a relationship between a character, an actor, and a prop. For example, you're seated in a dark lit room and then you catch a glimpse of a seat that your dad used to sit on before he kicked the bucket. How do you touch it? How do you sit on it? How do you look at it? How can you do all these and evoke some feeling of distance, love, loneliness, yearn to be with your father? So this was quite interesting for the students, and it could be done through Zoom sessions. So it could be done using mimes or even solo performances or even monologues. The last thing is, how would I handle group discussions? So I grouped the students into groups and I told them to organize Zoom sessions. And you see, this created leadership amongst the students. So some of the students created the Zoom sessions themselves. They looked for the other students and came up with a date and time. Others created WhatsApp groups and they used those ones to discuss their group tasks. And there's one thing that I want to leave you with, and that is something called Padlet. You can use padlet.com to brainstorm ideas. Students can tell you what they've learned from a particular topic from Padlet. They can tell you what they've not understood. They can use Padlet to brainstorm topical ideas and tell you what they need to learn next time. So try Padlet as well and see how it works. So I'm going to populate this PowerPoint presentation so that you can be able to read about collage pictures and how you can use collage pictures to teach set design. Thank you so much. Unless, Joel, you have any questions? Back to you, Joel.
Yeah, it's only Julissa who asked Padlet. I think she wanted to clarify if it's Padlet, but yeah, it is Padlet. So we're all good. Is there anyone else who has any question for Eric? All right, then I am going to go ahead and present my session. So the focus again, it's what has worked virtually. And the two things I would like to share with all of you with regards to what has worked for me. I'm going to go to my next screen. So my name is Joel Godi. I'm based in Beijing, China. I'm a Kenyan, like most of us here. I've worked in many international schools. For those who know more about the IB lingo, I am an IB examiner, workshop leader, and school visit team member. But that said, I am a learner, like any one of you. So I'm here to share, but I'm also here to learn from others. Here is one thing that I've done, which has worked, is I've introduced students to traditional forms. And the reason why I've gone to traditional forms of theater or performances is because they do not require the traditional proscenium stage, so to speak. One particular one which has been very relevant to my students is Rakugo sit-down theater. With Rakugo sit-down theater, you only have one performer in a sit-down position. And that performer goes ahead and uses their body movement to engage with the audience, predominantly their hands, their facial expressions, the upper side of their body, and only use two props, a hand fan and a towel. And I'm going to show you now examples from my students exploring this tradition. On the left is a student who was on lockdown here at the school facility. We had a boarding school. On the right is a student at home performing. Now, like what Jackson talked about with regards to storytelling, rakugo is a form of storytelling, but originating in Japan. And at the end of this presentation, I think we'll be sharing some links and you will get to read more about rakugo, but I'm happy to answer more about it. But as you can see there, the performer just sits down and just uses their body and these two props. And as you can see, it's easy to engage with an audience. It's easy to do online because it doesn't require anything other than your body and these two props. So this worked effectively for me and my students, and they really loved it. And what was even more enriching for me was the fact that they presented these things, those who could, to their family members, and their family members gave them feedback. It has some convention of how you should walk, how you should eat, how you should look right or left when you're talking, how you should talk to someone who's near you or farther from you. But all those are small nitty-gritties that students can understand. And I recommend this for any age group from nursery all the way to college. The other thing that I have tried, but not fully, is anim acting, which is postulated by this lady called Suzanne. Suzanne has a nice, almost 40-minute video on YouTube talking about it, and that link will also be shared. But it looks something like what you're seeing at the center there. You see one performer, and then behind is a big screen, especially for those of you who are in the industry, and you may have access to a projector. This would work for you best. You can project the scenery or the mood or the feeling, like what Eric has talked about in terms of colors. And then you have one performer, two performers in front, and a mixture of these two worlds, as I call them, the virtual one and the real world, in a virtual environment, can be quite engaging. And here are some examples from my students. These are not like the best, but still commendable in how they married the two worlds. Both students are performing at home, and you can see this student has gone ahead and created a window using projection, and she's engaging with the window. She could engage with it better. The other one is using images. She's doing a piece about women empowerment. She's doing a piece about being so isolated from everyone to the point where no one notices that you exist. And both performers engage with both the virtual world, which is what they're projecting, and themselves, to create more worlds or to create more stories. And I think this is a good way to engage with an audience virtually. Here, if you see, this is a cool moment where she's using virtual punches to signify how life is beating her up. And of course, you can expound these ideas and make them better. But for me, these two are just snippets of example of how I have managed to kind of help students perform at home. Now, yes, I know some students may not have access to projectors and things like that, but again, you could use just your phone and pre-record yourself, and then combine these two recordings using editing softwares, and then run that as a pre-recorded performance to a larger audience, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it. I'm happy to talk more about such approaches, but that's all I wanted to share right now. So thank you. And I'll take it back to Eric.
All right. Now, this session, we are going to give it to the other educators. So if you feel like there's something that you need to say, maybe some challenges that you've gone through and some solutions that you came up with, maybe we have not mentioned, and you really want to talk about them. This is a platform for anyone who wants to chip in and say something. So Joel is going to give me names of those who want to say something. So if you want to say something, you can lift up your hand so that we can give you this particular platform and speak out. So as we're waiting for more people to tell us something.
We have a question here in the chat.
Right.
I like Eric's discussion about having to find a way to each important aspect in drama. So my question is, what is key for drama students to learn in such a time as this, such that we don't have to bore them, but build them? Excellent question.
So what's key for them to learn instead of boring them?
Yes, what would be key during this time for them to focus on? So I would imagine that would be not necessarily just following requirements of the curriculum, you know, like let's do the science questions, let's do the math questions, let's do the drama things. But is there a particular topic or approach that would keep their interest or be important for them to look at right now? Maybe going up curriculum. I think if I'm interpreting that correct.
Yeah. Maybe I can answer this from a point of view. There are a few areas that we have discussed before. First of all, you have to remember that these students are at home, and some of these students they would be so happy to work with their parents or relatives to do some of these tasks. So you can steal that idea and ask them if some of the tasks they can be able to do with their parents. Maybe acting, where you need 2 actors on stage. Can they work with their fathers or work with their mothers? So if you need to have a certain platform where you discuss with the students, but you have to introduce a certain topic. And then now go further and discuss with the students on how they can be able to do several tasks, either by themselves or even friends or relatives at home. If that is difficult, then they can even give you options of how else they can meet some of the demands of the topic. So even bringing in the aspect of, for example, give an example of color, what color means in different countries. They can give you the symbols of those colors in where they're living. So they can use the environment where they're staying and where they're living to explain something. And for example, when we have discussions, when I said group discussions being done through Zoom sessions by themselves, you can use that to also assess them. So instead of just actually assessing them on paper, go ahead and try and see if you can have their WhatsApp group discussions based on the topics that you've already given them. Can you be able to assess that? Can you be able to look at that and assess it and give them a grade based on that? So make it as simple as possible so that they can have fun using the gadgets that they're having at home and using the applications that they have at home. Unless Joel and Jackson want to add something.
Okay. So I also think, you know, students have been stuck at home for so long, and most of the lessons they are seated. They are seated. So we need also to be innovative in such a way that we want the students to be. Let's take away the traditional seat where they just sit and listen. How we just need to think about how innovative can we get towards towards this online platform. So for example, I just want us to do a quick task for all of us. And if we could all turn on our cameras, I think that would be great. So just a simple activity. I was talking about facial expression. So I want us to just turn on our cameras, those of us who can, and do a facial expression. So and you see also when it comes to acting, how do we manipulate? Because also this body, it's like exercise. You need to manipulate your body so that you're able to perform. That is the function of rehearsal. So what do you do with your face? What do you do with your hands? And these are things you can be able to explore on an online platform. So I want the people who, Julissa, can we be able to get the view of everyone who's on and let them, so I'll just count down from 5, 3, 2, 1, and then what everyone will do will freeze a facial expression. Will freeze a facial expression, how you're feeling right now. So, so what we're going to do, to the count of 5, 3, 2, 1, we'll freeze, and then we will freeze for 5 seconds. So I will count down 5, and then you will freeze again for 5 seconds. So we are going down. I'll also be part of it. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and everybody freeze. And freeze, okay? So it looks easy, but it also maintaining that state, even in performance. So it is something that you need to do consistently. So engage students with fun activities, but they are still learning. So we need to make it an exciting experience.
Maybe I can also add on to that. Joel, you also have something to say?
No, I'm okay. You can share.
All right. And in case someone else want to add something, you can write it on the chat platform so that we can also give you an opportunity to say something. There's also something called a montage, the one that I was talking about. And that is students and children, they love playing around with pictures or images. So these pictures or images can be a point of reference for them to explain something. So in class, you are able to teach students to draw a set and to draw all these props in a certain sketch. But this time you are on a virtual platform. You can't be able to tell them to draw, but they can't tell you what a dingy place looks like using an image. So they go on the internet and they look for a dingy place. They look for a place that looks haunted. So how would you be able to create such a set on stage? So they come around with pictures and they create a montage of pictures. They can tell you the texture of the wall using some of the images. They can tell you how the floor looks like or a certain sofa set looks like using these images. So they play around with these images, they put them together on a certain board. They can do that on a process journal. They can use other applications to just show you all these images explaining a particular set. So it's interesting when they just play around with these pictures. We used to do that in primary and nursery school. So we can use that for them to explain something. And you assess that and you give them a grade as long as it shows exactly how a set should look like. Yeah, there's a question here that says, kindly help on the idea of exploring storytelling. Some of our students do not appreciate folktales. Jackson.
Okay, so the thing is this, when we are looking at storytelling, we need to also break away from folk tales. We can have students tell modern stories that maybe they can resonate with, because if, and it's the current generation, and we just have to appreciate that sometimes these folk tales do not resonate very well with them. So let them tell the story of an astronaut, or let them tell a story about a typical day of a pilot, but let them tell it in a, we usually say that, this is what I usually tell my students. Drama is ordinary life with the boring parts removed. So that is, I think, a best way to approach storytelling. Let them tell a modern story, or even tell a story of something that has happened in real life and add some spice into it.
All right. I was looking at Joel here, and Joel has added something that is very interesting. Why don't you add some video to your storytelling? Why don't you add some music to your storytelling? Body movement, voiceover, and sometimes even music from a live band. So you can add all these concepts to even make the story more interesting. So the story does not really get stuck on someone telling the story. We can tell the same story using different and many other concepts. And that's why I'm sticking to the word concept, because it's just through concept that you can just hammer these things at home. Joel, would you like to add something on the same thing of modernizing storytelling?
Yeah, my thinking was what you've clarified. I think we sometimes get stuck with the idea that when we are telling stories, It has to be 1 or 2 or 3 people just using their body. But if you begin to use many things around you, I recently, then you can tell stories very quite uniquely. There's and I'll try and find this video. There's a video on YouTube about this company, or this theater company that performs Shakespeare plays. And what they did, one challenge was they performed it using props. And this is what it means. So picture yourself in the kitchen. You take a pan, you take a bottle of water, you take a spoon, you take whatever tools, a knife, and you arrange them on a table, and each one of them becomes a character, and you begin to tell a story. Once upon a time, and then the pan starts walking and making noise. Once upon a time, Pan was visiting the kitchen. Tick, 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 tick. Then he met Spoon, and Spoon starts talking. And you have a conversation with objects. And this is a student telling the story. Now, it is one person, but it's not about them anymore. It's about these objects they've put on the table. That would make it quite entertaining for anyone who's listening to that story, I think. And it could be a folklore. It could be a traditional story that you kind of modernize it by using things, using phones. You know, our students love their mobile phones. Taking 1 or 2 phones where they have an image of a friend here, or a friend is live here and another friend is live here, and the 3 of them are having a conversation. Might make it quite unique and interesting, I think.
All right. I'd like to direct this question to either Derek or Joyce Arigi. Are there difficulties that you went through when you're teaching drama virtually? And what solutions did you come up with some of these difficulties that you went through? So Derek.
Okay, thank you, Eric, for the opportunity. Part of the difficulty that I went through, I really discovered some of my students, their area of strength. Some of them they prefer like script writings, others would prefer working alone, and others would prefer working in groups. So it was kind of hard. On my side, what we were doing when it comes to doing practical work, most of the time I would tell my students to record themselves doing the work and then send to me videos. So it was a bit difficult for those students who preferred scripting. But the easiest way for me to go, what I decided to do was, if a student's strength is in scripting, they would do a script and then I would give it to a group of students who would prefer acting. So they would tell their story, or they would act out their story based on the script written by a certain student. That's I would give them in the area of their strength, using trying to differentiate in terms of their strength. Thank you.
That is wonderful. And maybe I can add on to that. You can, when you're choosing groups, you can also maybe let them choose the groups themselves. They'd probably even make the work easier for you. Joyce Arigi, would you want to add something on maybe challenges that you've gone through during virtual teaching?
Oh, thank you. I think one of the challenges we had, and I don't know whether some of you have the same challenge, is whereby students were thinking so much in terms of a grade at the end of it all, in the sense that when I'm doing this, am I able to get a good grade out of it? And I think this is something that they kept on facing as a challenge. And one way in which we were able to overcome this, maybe as a school or as a subject, is focusing more on the skill development as opposed to looking at it as like someone say, don't focus more on the product, but focus more on the journey of how to get to that product. And I think in that way, they were able to appreciate their strengths as individuals, because these are kids who come from various backgrounds. There are those who are able to even access a simple thing as Wi-Fi. There are those who are not able. So focusing more on the process as opposed to the final product is one of the areas that we really majored on. And I think at the end of it all, there was great success. Thank you.
Wow, that is wonderful. And as you also focus on the method of doing a certain skill and technique, also create chances for them to do the same task in different perspectives. As we said, even assessing a WhatsApp chat, you can be able to assess the collaboration or even leadership, how they are putting up even the Zoom sessions, and that creates more ways of assessing similar students. I'll give this chance to Stephen Wekesa. Stephen, are there challenges that you've gone through teaching as well through virtual platforms? And what are the solutions that you came up with?
Stephen says cannot.
Stephen?
He said he's unable to speak.
All right. Then we go to Oluwadare. Is there anything maybe you can add up, you can add onto our webinar?
Nothing much. I already asked the question and I was pleased by the answer that was given to me. So I think what I would just like to add is like Mr. Ligaga had earlier pointed out, you know, students, we just have to get creative with them. Getting creative with them is very important, because during times like this, I noticed most of them have this issue of, you know, concentrating or doing the task well and everything. So you just have to get creative with them. You have to push them, like we've always done for my students. We have to push them and, you know, push them until they're able to achieve what they're supposed to achieve. So it's basically just it's a new normal. So we have to just find creative ways to just work around, and I think it's a very good platform to be able to know what to do to make things better. So thank you.
Oh, nice. As we wrap up, we're going to have Cecilia. Cecilia, do you have something that you would like to add onto our webinar? Challenges that maybe you went through and the solutions that
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am very happy to be in this forum, and I have learned so much. Like somebody pointed out, when we went to school on a Friday, and on Monday, we were told there's no school. So it was just fumbling thereafter, trial and error. What do we do? Where do we go from here? And along the way, I learned. And one thing that worked for me very well, of course, the students were complaining, Miss, you know, drama is a practical, you know, how do we go about it? And at one time, I threw to them a talent show. And in this talent show, there were to come up with the dramatics. And they really did come up with amazing pieces. And I encouraged them as much as possible to include family members. And it was amazing to see even fathers very excited to take part. And they came up with comedies, they came up with the storytelling we are talking about. They came up with puppetry. I didn't even realize some of my students were really, really good. And they used voice very effectively. And yes, I think I have learned a lot. I have seen a lot of creativity. And I have learned that when we let them come up with the ideas, actually they're just, they're so good. They're so good. They will come up with ideas that you look into and you're like, wow, how come I didn't think about that? And I'm very excited about this meet we are having, and I look forward to many more. Like Julissa is saying, I look forward to many more. Thank you so much.
All right.
Back to you, Eric.
Everyone, but just before we say goodbye, I've just shared with you a Padlet link. It's called Padlet link. You can link. You just go there, and on that Padlet link, you can suggest topics that you'd like maybe webinars for in future. And someone is telling me here we can have even 2 webinars in a week or even in a fortnight. So click on that and you can type down the ideas that you'd like us maybe to discuss next time. And maybe if you'd like to also be part of these webinars, you know, speak about a certain topic, you can also email us. So there's a certain link I've also shared with you. If you can.
I think Eric has possibly lost power. I think he was in the middle of saying that he shared a link to a Google Drive. There's a folder on there that is collecting resources for ideas for performance and teaching theatre online that Joel has set up. And I believe it's possible for anyone, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think anyone can add their resources to that folder, and you can look at ideas that people have had and draw from that.
Yes, yes, everyone has editing rights. You can add, you can take, share more as you take more.
Okay, yeah, Eric has lost power, and he says, I think that's a wrap.
Okay.
We'll call it good. We wanted to keep this to an hour, but yes, use the links that Eric has placed there in the chat to Padlet, and then use the Drive folder, and let's see what we can do to continue encouraging and supporting one another through this time of taking live theatre online. Thank you all for joining.
Can I also add, so the idea also is not for the four of us to always present. We just started we set the ball rolling. We hope that others can also volunteer to come and present. So we can have those chats in the WhatsApp, and then hopefully others can decide to share as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining us. We look forward to hearing from everyone more.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Very much. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.